Welcome back to the Nerdrotic Podcast. Actually, this is the Cult of Frisco podcast. It's kind of our original podcast, which I'll get into later. It's a lot of podcasts going on, but my name is Gary Buechler. I am in San Francisco, California, and I am with my co-host Jon Reed down in Toluca Lake. What's up, buddy?
How's it going, man? How's it going? It's been a crazy day. I'm excited to be talking to you about Doctor Who today, though. This is great. It's good stuff.
It has been a crazy day, crazy week for both of us since the last. So we talk about the last episode, but that's why we watch TV to kind of unwind and not think about crap, not think about your bank account your debit card getting cloned and your bank account getting depleted. Yeah, I can't even get it out. I'm still so pissed about it, but it's okay.
Crazy, man.
I'm going to get my money back. To the thieves out there who cloned my card and stole my money, we're going to get you. We're going to get you.
Well, so here's the thing. Who the bank paid out? Like is your money back? Like, are you good on your end right now?
My money comes back eventually. Yes. I have to file some paperwork and I think I'll get it back like in the middle of next week.
So good on them because they just stole money from a bank and we hate banks. No, I'm totally kidding because you just had to deal with a bunch of bullshit. But yeah, Robin Hood, good stuff.
Yeah.
Don't steal things, people.
Don't steal things. It's bad karma. Okay, trust me. Because this is like bad karma for my stuff that I did when I was bad, catching up with me. This stuff, karma doesn't forget, okay? And neither does the doctor. Well, actually, he does forget and he moves on. And that's what this episode was about, John, was moving on from murder and death.
Making hard decisions, right? Like, it's being okay with not being perfect and making hard choices is I think the theme of this whole episode.
It was. And again, I'm just gonna talk about Bill Potts and how important she is to the show. And as the episodes go on, it's becoming tragic that this is going to be the only season we have her. I hope they change their minds. I hope something else comes up. But I hope we see more of her because this was a very Donna-ish episode I wrote in my notes. For fans of Donna, we've gotten the gambit, we've gotten.
Were you a friend of Donna? Are you a fan of Donna?
I am a friend of Donna and a fan of Donna. Yes, that's a great sticker. That's a good little. I am a friend of Donna, dude. Of Donna. That should be our. Oh my God, that should be the name of this podcast. Friends of Donna.
Oh, that's so great.
That's how people in AA identify each other sometimes. Are you friend of Bill? I'm a friend of Bill. Bill W. Love you, Bill W. So we end up in the 1800s again, John. And Stephen Moffat and Russell T Davies have had a bit of a love affair with the 1800s. We are talking about, in the first season, we had The Unquiet Dead, which was in 1869. We had Tooth and Claw, which was in season 2, and The 10th Doctor, which was in 1879. One of the 10th Doctor's specials called The Next Doctor was in 1851. Then we had Matt Smith and the Snowman in 1842. We had Deep Breath in I don't know. They didn't identify it. I even went to the Wikipedia and find it. And that was Capaldi's first episode. So this is the latest. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 6 episodes in, they really love the 1800s.
Yeah, I was actually thinking, like, I had I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing when you have a conscious realization while you're watching something. Because, like, in one way, it's like you're not in the story because you're thinking about things and connecting dots, like, while it's playing out. But at the same time, like, it's you can easily put that emotional state at that moment because you did connect all these dots in that moment. So I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. However, I did realize that I like it when Doctor Who goes to like the past or alternative present way more than I like the future or alternative future episodes. I'd much rather have these historical, old feeling 1800s episodes with like a giant sea monster rather than like robots in space. Just me personally, like, this episode was the Doctor Who that I love, right? Like the whole landscape of it is my favorite kind of episode, I guess.
Yeah, I'm a little torn, and I totally agree with you. I mean, that's what the show was made for. It was initially supposed to be a kid's show that taught you about history. Right. And it went off from there. It depends on the episode. I like them all. it's like picking a child, a
Sure,
favorite
sure.
child, but we all have one, by the way.
So is this, yeah, right? Is this one of your favorite 1800s episodes of Doctor Who, or is it somewhere in the middle for you? Like the Snowman episode's pretty fantastic.
It is, John. I need some time. I with these episodes, I judge them by rewatchability, and I've found that the Capaldi run has not had the best rewatchability for me. And I'm somebody who has a high tolerance for that. I can do it all day long. I've seen the entire series up through season 6. I mean, each episode multiple times. I've lost count. I can't tell you how many times I've rewatched it.
The interesting thing about that is that Capaldi, I agree with you. Like I mean, I've only watched. I'm trying to catch up, right? So I'm going back and I've watched more Capaldi now than I had when we started this podcast a few weeks, or when I came onto this podcast a few weeks ago. However, I would say the Bill run, if you want to break it into Capaldi and Bill, I think 2 out of the 3 of these episodes are episodes that I would enjoy watching again. The first episode, the first Bill episode, with that like great uplifting ending and like all, I don't know, I loved that first episode, the whole Sherlock beginning, and then this episode with the like the ambiance of it and the interaction between Bill and the Doctor, and I don't know, there's just a lot about this episode that I would definitely go back to. I may skip the second episode, but yeah, so I think maybe we might find that the Bill stuff is gonna play a little differently than the rest of the Capaldi stuff.
Agreed. It's I watch each episode twice. I had no problem doing it. Not with any of the episodes really, but this one I really enjoyed. And it gets me back to thinking, Moffat is really good. Stephen Moffat, the writer and creator of Doctor Who and controller right now, was really good when he was running things, and still is, sorry, with first episodes. His first episodes, I mean, the 11th Doctor, classic.
Yeah.
Asylum of the Daleks, classic. The Impossible Astronaut, classic. He's always had great beginnings. With Bill's beginning, I do put it up there. Now that I think about it, and I've seen it like 3 or 4 times. That one's it's really good. I don't want to call it classic yet. It does. And this one is one of the better 1800s episodes. I'll say this. I'll agree with you. The Snowman being the best. I mean, that one was just brilliant. And Clara at her best too. Interesting thing. You were talking about alternate histories, alternate worlds. And in the beginning of this episode, it starts up right where Smile ended. And they're in the 1800s, and they go back into the TARDIS after they land on the River Thames, and he finds a better parking place. And Bill brings up the fact that, you can go to alternative worlds. Is this an alternative history? Is this an alternative Earth? And he said, no, this is our Earth. But he didn't deny that the TARDIS can't go to alternate worlds anymore. And the last time this was even referenced was in season 3 with the 10th Doctor, with Rise of the Cybermen, when they did go to an alternate reality. That the 10th Doctor mentioned that, I can't anymore because there's no more Time Lords. So now that there kind of is Time Lords, can he go to alternate realities? And this is one of the first, there's a lot of foreshadowing in this episode, John. This episode wasn't written by Stephen Moffat. I'm forgetting the writer's name right now. I meant to write it down. I didn't, sorry. But there is tons of hints. And that, I believe, was the first big hint of what's to come this season. Now, what's in it? I don't know. Will it be, I don't know, is it a way to get the other master in? Maybe he's an alternate reality master. He did have a goatee. Yep. And that is the sign of the alternate reality. All my Trekkie friends out there. I don't know. I think there's really something to that, and we'll get back to that later. I don't know. What do you think, John?
Yeah, no. I agree. I think I'm not as up on like the history of it like you are about. He could go to alternate histories. And then he said he couldn't. Like I wasn't. I haven't put those pieces together. However, I would say that if that is the case, which it is, now that I know that, it makes a lot more sense, because it seems like this season is going to be freeing up the universe for whatever the next showrunner wants to do in a lot of ways. It's both buttoning up what Moffat's done and setting it up for the next one. And I think that they want to open the world back up again throughout this season. I think that's going to be something we see, is just like the possibilities are just going to grow as this goes on, so that when the next showrunner takes over, they're not limited to like, oh, you can't deal with this because the Time Lords are dead, and you can't deal with this because blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like, I think they're going to start to strip away some of those constrictions they put on themselves for storytelling purposes. So it makes total sense, and I bet you, yeah, we are going to see an alternate version of something to open that possibility back up for the future.
And there's a bunch of possibilities with that, John, and very astute that they're, instead of boxing people in story wise, Moffat is doing Chris Chinball a favor by opening things up for him. And let me not bury the lead here, and we will get into the episode. So, well, they land in 1814. They are in London. It is the last of the Frost Fairs. Now, this is very important. The Frost Fairs were these little fairs that they did on the River Thames, and when the river froze over, which I don't know if it does very much or not. I'm not from there. And there must have been some reason they stopped doing it. But the reason the last of the Frost Fairs is important, John, because in the classic episode, A Good Man Goes to War, we get Rory in the beginning going to visit River Song in prison, and she's actually just coming back. She wasn't like locked up, and she has some 1800s garb on. Yeah. And she mentioned that it was her birthday, and the doctor had just taken her to the last of the Frost Fairs and got Stevie Wonder to sing her happy birthday under the London Bridge. So the 11th Doctor was there at the same time. Yes.
Oh, that's so crazy.
And now it's cool that they did that, but this is like, I believe, the third little callback to River Song. First episode, we had a picture. Yep. Second episode, we had him talking about the fish being a mutual friend. You know, when he talked about over the dinner thing over yes. That was a minor River Song reference. And then we have this not a outright reference, but I'm not the only one who caught this. I actually went online, and actually the Radio Times had caught this. I thought I was the only one. I was like, but no, wait a minute, Frost Fairs. So again, not to bury the lead here, but my notes, the first thing that hit my head was what we had talked about a couple of previous podcasts, like, you know, bringing Captain Jack back, bringing River Song back. All it would do would, you know, make money. Right. And, you know, all the talk of having a female doctor. Well, you've got one. You've got a great one out there, and her name is River Song. And I just, the first thing that popped in my head was a husband and wife Time Lord team. That would be rad. I mean, they won't do it. It's total fan fiction, but I just went fucking rad. I was like,
I think that a version of that could really work is like a Mr. and Mrs. Smith, where they don't know each other, are also Time Lords or whatever. Ooh. And they're living together, and they're both like changing history, and then all of a sudden they bump into each other and they're working on different sides.
Oh, that'd be rad. That would be so rad. But I think I definitely think they're going to be bringing back. We haven't seen the last of River Song. I mean, he's been mourning her a lot, and the goodbye was perfect. But you know, it's timey-wimey. And honestly, we haven't gotten a ton of timey-wimey, and I'm telling you, we're gonna get. I mean, Moffat. This is Moffat's last series. He's gonna take the Moff gloves off.
This is about the length of a Game of Thrones season, correct? So correct. I mean, this is the third episode of you know, the final season of a Game of Thrones. Like, we're just getting into it now. And, you know, just like Game of Thrones, a lot is going to probably go down in the second half of the season after we set it all up in this first half. So to me, this is just a lot of introduction leading to some big, they're going to do some big, you know, that they're going to go out with a bang. So this is, it's exciting, and, you know, it's early. It's real early.
It is, but it's fun. And this episode, again, was fun. It was funny, but it had serious moments. You know, so they landed they're at the Frost Fairs, and they're having fun. They're not, the doctor is, you know, this has happened before, but this is the first time he really looked like, what the fuck am I doing here? When the TARDIS brought him in somewhere. Usually he can play it off like, oh, yep, this is where the TARDIS brought me, whatever. But it looked like he really didn't mean to go there, you know?
No.
And he did explain that it's negotiation. But I mean, did he look kind of bothered the whole time? Like, why are we here?
Yes.
And so he's like, fuck it, let's enjoy it. Why worry about it? And then they have this cool little exchange. We have another companion talk about the butterfly effect. Yep. And I love how he's all, well, yeah, you should have seen Pete, you know, and she's all, who's Pete? See, Pete's gone. Then she asks him about Pete and he's all, who's Pete? You know, I'm paraphrasing, but it was really funny. But
I love all the pie stuff. They have the little meat pies and he's like stealing them. It's great. It's so good.
I forgot what's the name of that. Oh, just one of those bioluminescent fish that are from the, you know, the deep bottom of the ocean that, you know, that lure people in. Yeah, that's what the pies were made of. And she's all, I like the pies. They were good. So the doctor quickly figures out there's something going on. He gets pickpocketed and his sonic screwdriver gets taken and somebody finally calls it what it is, a magic wand. Bill Potts, thank you. I keep on wanting to call her Billy, but I work with a guy named Billy, so I don't want to do that. And they quickly find out that the kids, that this is actually, you know, I was thinking about the show Taboo because it takes a place right around the same time. I'm like, James Delaney is walking around out there somewhere too.
Yep,
that would have been an interesting meeting. You know,
that was a good crossover.
Tom Hardy and Doctor, yeah, that'd be good. So the kids pickpocket, he follows them in, and he finds out that they're actually working for somebody to try to lure people to the Frost Fair. Like, you need to do that, but somebody needs more people at the Frost Fair. And
before we get there, the kid dies, right? Like you see a kid just get sucked under the ice. I don't know if
the lights under the ice. We see the lights under the ice, and that's what I wanted to, it's totally what I was getting to, but that's okay. Is we see a kid die, and again, this is classic Doctor Who, and Moffat's never been afraid to do this. Actually, Russell T Davies kind of was, but if you watch the older episodes, like, people died all the time. Now, they didn't kill a lot of kids, but you know, people died, and that's Doctor Who, and they've never shied away from that. But they have a great Bill and the Doctor have you kind of see where he's at right now, and this is the point where the Doctor really needs a companion. You could tell he hasn't had one for a while when he gets really detached. You know, you've seen The Day of the Doctor, right, John?
Yes.
The 50th anniversary special. So remember, Matt Smith talked about moving on when the War Doctor asked him how many kids died on Gallifrey, and, you know, Matt Smith is like, I've lost count, and you know, David Tennant's like, how do you move on from something like that? Right. Well, again, the Doctor has moved on, and I don't know if that's a good thing.
So this was the one part of the episode that I struggled with, and for a couple reasons. One, I watch Arrow and review it on the CW Superhero Roundup with Dennis week to week here on nerdrotic.com. But Arrow does this every episode, and it's so fucking annoying, where you have this main character who's constantly in the position to like make these life or death decisions that weigh on them. And then you have some like annoying new character, not that Bill's annoying, but you have like this new character who just got along for the ride, kind of like judging the person who's been in this position for a really long time. And it's like, it feels so unearned. Like, you've been here for like 3 episodes, Bill. Why are you like getting all upset that like he's seen people die and caused people's death over the course of his, like, you've seen what he deals with. Like, this isn't easy shit. And so it was a little bit annoying. And I know that the episode, like, it dealt with this over the course of the episode. And that's the whole point. But like, it did feel a little bit like, okay, Bill, like, chill out a little bit on the judgy eyes of the Doctor right now. Like, you knew what you were getting into here. You're the one who begged him to get back in that TARDIS. So, you know, I don't know. I didn't know how to feel about it because, like I said, we've been through this on Arrow over and over again, so I think I'm a little bit like overly sensitized to it. And then with this, it was just like, come on, man! Like, this is your dude, and you're criticizing him right now for something that like he has to live with every day of his life. Like, where do you get off? I don't know. I had some issues there.
Oh, I agree. I mean, it's a sign of the times, John. You know, you never can judge a decade until you're another decade away from it. You know, like we're just being able to kind of figure out what the 90s was about now.
Yeah.
And this one will be, I can tell you right now, will be judged by moral outrage. And his response was perfect. Was, I'm 2,000 years old and I have never had the time or luxury of outrage.
Right.
You know, because I'm too busy saving people. No, I can't save everybody. But like, I'm on a galactic level. I mean, essentially, he's a god. Okay.
Yes,
I mean, he's a
a
very humble
cosmic
one,
level.
believe it or
Yeah.
not, and who really loves the human race. And I even put in my notes, it really got me thinking this time, like, why does he love the human race so much? I mean, I know it's for the show and everything, but you know, Stephen Moffat really likes to explain the shit out of things. And I really think there might be something to the fact that he might be part human.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit there. I also think that the more we explore Doctor Who, the universe of Doctor Who, the more we find that they the other beings out there are either like extremely warlike or just survival, just survivalists, or like they have one motivation, and they're all of their actions are based on this one motivation, whether it's the doll, whatever it is, right? Exterminate. It's very base stuff that we're dealing with on Doctor Who a lot of the time. The robots in the last episode, they had one mission and they just did that mission. And I think that the reason the Doctor loves the human race so much is because there isn't one base motivation that guides the race, right? So you have very compassionate people starting wars. You've got, the oxymorons that we see within the human race, I think are different than you see in the other beings and aliens and whatever that the Doctor sees in all of his travels. And I think it's the curiosity of all the layers there that the Doctor can get into. And as the more we explore this as an audience, the more we explore this universe, we find that yeah, humans are probably one of the most like complicated of these different races, right? So that's probably it.
Definitely. No, that's great. I love that. I mean, there is a specialness to us, you know, like science and a lot of other things, and ourselves. We like to, you know, especially in the sci-fi world, we like to downplay it like we're the cavemen. But I think, you know, culturally, there's something rad about us. Like we are so different, and yeah, no singular motivation, and you know, no hive mind.
Right. It's like Spock, right? Like the human half of him is the interesting half because
Yep.
uh, the logic and everything that you would think he would want, like the emotion that makes him betray those things that are supposed to be his guiding principles is what makes him such an interesting character. And I think that Doctor Who is not the first and it won't be the last sci-fi show to say like, yes, humanity is more complex than we give it credit for, and there's something interesting about that, and you can study that and never get to the bottom of it. And the Doctor, the essence of the Doctor is curiosity, right? So, or
Yep.
to me. And so like if you're a curious person, you'll never reach any one conclusion that'll be like, okay, I've figured it out now, I can go explore some other planet, so that's where I think it is for him. So yeah, I don't know.
No, that's great. I even put that in my notes that I can't find it right here, but I can remember it, which is I wrote down, this is a good old Doctor Who episode, back to the curious Doctor, but he's still in control, even though he's a little detached still. You know, he went out and he's like, he told Bill when she was worrying about the butterfly effect, he's like, don't worry.
Right.
Like people to make it's called making decisions. We do them every day. You're
Right.
not that important. The beauty of this show and the timeliness of it, besides the 50th anniversary being great and it hitting Netflix, was it hit at a time where TV audiences became instantly more sophisticated and wanted more. You couldn't just throw a CSI out and have these cookie cutter episodes. And especially from Phil's aesthetics class,
Yes.
from the video intensive we took, he really explains how cookie cutter TV became. like over explains it, like spends hours explaining it.
Yeah, because he worked on Matlock, which is one of those shows that was at the beginning of maybe not the beginning, but it was close to the beginning of like the week to week drama that had like a that was paced out. Like the studio essentially just paced it all out, and you just fit the character names and the like, the mystery into it, and then you just pressed go, and that's where it was for a really long time. And Doctor Who did come along at a perfect. I think Buffy is probably the show that broke that wheel, and I think Doctor Who followed up on it really, or at least in the United States, followed on it real well at the right after Angel. I think people started getting into Doctor Who, and it seems
well this far out, and we're going to talk about it, and we could talk a little bit. I picked up an Entertainment Weekly, or my wife picked up an Entertainment Weekly magazine that has the Buffy anniversary, and most of them got together and did a photo shoot, and I'm sure this is going to lead to a movie. It has to. God, I hope so. And again, we're this far away from the 90s. Buffy defines the 90s. It is the show of the 90s. It is one of the top 5 TV shows of all time. I met so many people who like, Buffy wasn't for me. And then they watched it and they're like, I love it. And I was one of those people. I was totally one of those people. Yep. I was one of those people with Doctor Who. I'm like, it looks a little too English, and which is crazy because I don't know what kept me away from it, but thanks to Netflix, got into it, doing podcasts, room filled with toys that some of you out there might get. We'll talk about that later. I kind of like the exchange between Bill and the Doctor, but I liked his retort. That's why I liked it.
I agree. I liked his retort, but what do you think of a character that's been so spot on so far? Like Bill has been the most authentically like the conduit from the audience type character. For her to come in and have that strong of a reaction to the mentality and the dogma of the Doctor, essentially, like why, like what did you think of that aspect of it, of Bill being the one to deliver
it? Takes me out of the episode. It's the writer. I blame the writer. And there have been moments in all 3 episodes where, attempting to be topical, especially in hyper political times, they've said stuff that makes me cringe a little bit, but I mean, I get past it. I mean, believe me, Russell T Davies did this too. Writers do this all the time. I don't agree with everybody. Everybody agrees with me. You could look past it, but yes, there are little moments that people feel, and this gets by editors and stuff too. So it's not just the writer that are unnecessary. I mean, it's just because, and you got to know this as a writer, because I mean, I felt the same way you did, but the Doctor's response kind of made me okay with it, but it still was not necessary.
I just wish we had like the little girl, the little like gypsy girl, who just watched her friend die. Right? Like, I wish she had been the one being like, yes, why didn't you save him? Like, why couldn't you save him? What are you going to do now? Are you going to try to help him? Like, why can't you help him? And her having those questions, and then having Bill come along after and be like, yeah, so you've got to deal with this shit all the time. Like, that's crazy. Like, how do you do that? How do you see these things and still be able to make these decisions that you have to make, that affects so many people, and have him give the answer he gave, but have Bill be the less passionate version, and have like maybe the little boy's like best friend be the one to get really upset over it, right? Like, there seems to be a way out of that to me, like you've built a way out of that and you chose not to do it. So I don't know.
Well, they've gone back to what got defined in season 1 to me anyway. If you ever like are just watching the show randomly and you're like, why would other than it being a show, why would somebody really go off with a guy in time and space and do all this stuff? You want to think about it realistically. And Rose said it best to her mom. She's like, I'm like making a difference. Like, you want to people talk about making a difference. I can go out there and actually save people. You don't save everybody, but you live like this amazing big life, like nobody would say no to that shit. I wouldn't say no to that shit. So I felt like they got back to that. Yes. And they later, they were consistent, at least. Like when the henchman dies later, she looks equally, Bill looks equally as horrified when he dies, but she doesn't freak out about it because she remembers earlier. So it does, it was consistent, and overall, I thought the episode was really well written. It was.
I agree.
It just had moments.
I like again, I had that little nitpicky thing about who was delivering the emotion and the judginess of that sentiment at the beginning. But I do love how by the end they had turned it around and the doctor was like, these are your people, you make the decisions, and then you can figure out how you're gonna move past it when a whole group of people die or don't die, right? Like he kind of put it on her and said, like, hey, we're in this together. Like, let's see how you deal with it. Like, no, neither one of us is better than the other, so go for it, right?
Yep, you're the boss. And he actually, the doctor's inconsistent in doing that, but he was making some, but he has in Moffat's run anyway, has given it to Clara and now giving it to Bill, going, hey, you're the boss in this. So I'm making a decision for the human race, although it's wildly inconsistent because he makes decisions all the fucking time. So I think it was a little bit of a cop out that he gave it to Bill, but it was also like to test her as a companion. That's the way I saw it. And when, and I also like that he pointed out that he was his teacher. Like, hey, yeah, I am your teacher. You're here to learn. So, effing listen. And that was a teachable moment, we will say. And and the moment was this: there's a giant fish under the ice and it's eating people, but it's suffering. It's actually being held there by somebody, which is typical moment fish. Yeah. And she chooses to save the fish. Now, the person holding the fish, and this was like one of the juiciest parts of the episode, was Lord Sutcliffe. So they meet this Lord, and they find out that, for one, the fish is a mile long. And through their investigating techniques of tricking a really dumb person, they find out that they're using the shit from the beast as a fuel. Apparently it burns underwater, it burns hotter than they can measure. And it cuts into one of the better scenes of the season when Bill, when they finally figured out what it is, Bill goes, no shit. And then they cut, I wish they would have kind of stuck with it. It was basic and typical, but still funny. Okay. Still funny. So, so
that might have been one of the scenes that they edit out for the American version. Because keep in mind, I'm watching the American version of this. I don't know if you are.
Tap.
Are you?
You're fuzzy right now.
Are you watching the
Tap
British...
your cord. Oh, no. There you go. You were fuzzy for a second there. Sorry, folks.
Sorry about that. Technical difficulty. So, were you watching the BBC UK version or the BBC America version?
I was watching the UK version.
Yeah, I think that was edited out for the US version. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, they didn't even put it in there?
I don't think so.
Oh, you know what, ladies and gentlemen? I'm not going to recommend this, that you go to some torrent sites and download it, but I'm not going to recommend that. But you shouldn't go to torrent sites and download that. That'd be terrible. That'd be terrible to watch the entire episode. Yeah, BBC America cuts the I'll say it, cuts the shit out of the episodes, and they literally did it this time. Yeah, those bastards. Yeah, that was a great moment where Bill goes, no shit, and then it cuts, and then it goes back. You know what? I need to go back and watch Smile then, because I felt like Smile was rushed at the end, and our friendly commenter agreed with me, who won a prize, and the prize is on its way, kind sir. Said some very nice things about it. Yes, we had our second prize pack go out. I'm very excited about that. We will announce. Actually, I'm not going to announce the winner. I'll just contact you.
No, let's announce them. Let's read their name on the show, and yeah.
Hey, if you could pull it up towards the end, just pull up the second episode and see what comments we got, because I'm not near a computer. You are though. You could do it in a second. I can chat over that. So we get to Lord Sutcliffe. And earlier on in the episode, John, they mentioned the fact that Bill's black and there's still slavery. It's 1814. Yes. Slavery wasn't abolished in England until 1833, I believe, except for the East India Company, who could still do it to the other territories. I don't know. Watch Taboo. It'll answer, or Wikipedia. Right. And he goes, yeah, you better put on a dress. And then he tells her to go to the wardrobe, which is down here 5 doors on the left or something like that. And I meant to go back and see if that's the same place he tells Rose to go to the wardrobe, and it probably is. although the TARDIS has changed on the inside. So they get to Lord Sutcliffe's house, and he announces himself as Dr. Disco again, which is awesome. And Lord Sutcliffe sees Bill sitting in a chair, and we finally get, because before that it looked pretty mellow. Bill was able to walk around, and they weren't making an issue of a race. And then with the Lord sitting in his house, he's all, stand up for your betters, and whatever a Lord would say.
The doctor punches him,
and the doctor punches him. And this is right
great.
after yeah, I know. It was a great scene. It was right after he tells Bill to practice restraint and all this shit. He fucking socks him. And I'd like to point out for you newer Doctor Who fans that the Doctor has punched a lot of people. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the old days, actually, the third Doctor knew Kung Fu. And the fourth Doctor socked a couple people too. Early on.
I think socked a bunch of people as well.
I think Eccleston might have socked somebody too. He sure looks like he wanted to sock somebody all the time. Yeah. We love Eccleston. He's great. There he is right there. I miss Eccleston. So that exchange was one of the best scenes. And then we get into, and I remember the Doctor thought he was an alien at first. Okay. But then he punches him. He's all, nope, definitely human, 31 years old, low in iron, but here's another hint. I think he called it, he called it, the reason he thought he was an alien was he thought the fuel was a little advanced for just a human. Now, they made it make sense within the episode, but this is another one of those things where I think there's a big bad guy, the Master, behind manipulating things. I think the Master, kind of like he did in season 3 and she did in season 8. I think there's definitely something behind all 3 episodes. Feel like there's been some there is the ship showing up. We never found out what the real ship was. It could be nothing. The colony, the technology kind of took over, but we didn't know totally everything about it. And why did the TARDIS take them to the 1800s? Was it just for maybe it was just for the fish. It could have been just for the fish, but
fish pies.
It feels like the Master might have been using this for something we don't know. I'm just, that's what I'm sensing.
Here's what I think the Master is doing. 2 out of these 3 episodes, and maybe 3 out of these 3 episodes, have dealt with either manufacturing or using space fuel, right? We're talking about those bricks that were about, he's like, oh, this is all about like
they're nanobots.
Yeah. The nanobots in the second episode, the sentient fuel in the first episode, and then those bricks of whatever the fish was creating that he was saying could also be fuel in this episode. And I feel like there's a thread there. And I don't know how it's going to get pulled or who's going to pull it, but I feel like maybe the TARDIS keeps showing up in places where potential space fuel is showing up, and that's got to be something, right?
Oh, totally. And there's, again, this Moffat's been pretty linear with Capaldi. There was a lot more speculation with Matt Smith's run. There was, the crack and all kinds of stuff. But to me, the Mummy on the Orient Express, which was the best episode.
I went back and watched that.
I love that episode, man.
So
there is something behind that. Okay. Yeah. So I think it reaches past just this episode, and Missy has been messing around, but I mean, we can't think it's just Missy. We know we're getting a multiple Master episode, which I cannot wait for. I cannot wait. Oh my God. I cannot wait. And then this crazy Christmas special. So let's run this past. We've gotten our hints of multiple dimensions. We got our hints of, we think there's somebody, there looks like Master manipulation here. We've got our river song hints. And then we get to, so they free the fish as they would. And this reminds me of, the whale under London. It seems like Stephen Moffat is kind of like retreading some stuff. Although he didn't write this episode, he does plan all of them out. He just doesn't write them all. Yeah, I think it is. I think he loves to. I've mentioned this in podcasts that I've done solo. He loves to reference his own material. He is in love with referencing his own material, which is cool. I mean, he's a complicated writer, and I love that. And that's what I love about the show. And it's fun
get
again.
involved in the Deadpool movie series because that's what that should.
It would, he's gonna have time to screet right now.
He does have time.
So they send the giant. It's a mile long fish, and they send it off to be free. All it wants to be free, and hopefully it doesn't eat a bunch of humans, which Bill was worried about, but the doctor wasn't. And he sent it to Greenland, and she's like, "Oh, have we just doomed this part of the earth?" He's all, "I'll check in Greenland," and there's nobody there, so that was a good little joke. It just ate everybody in Greenland, and we get back home, and he was supposed to only be gone for a second. Remember, right before Smile. At the end of the first episode, or the beginning of Smile, he was just supposed to walk upstairs and have some tea. In the meantime, we got a little timey-wimey, and we passed 2 episodes. He gets busted by Nardole, and I guess they flip a coin saying, I won't, if heads, I won't take the TARDIS anywhere. Tails, you leave me alone. Nardole loses the coin toss. Obviously. The doctor has his tea, and they also muse over the fact that nobody noticed the monster in 1814.
Yeah.
And he said, he blamed it on day drinking. Yeah. But they get down to the vault. And this is the biggest hint of all, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're familiar with, he will knock 4 times, all that shit.
Oh, what is that? Hold on. Let's get into this.
The end of time. Remember the whole prophecy of the 10th Doctor's death was he will knock 4 times. And remember, the John Sim Doc master had that knocking in his head.
Yes.
So they didn't do it in that cadence, and whatever was behind the vault only knocked twice once and 3 times twice next. And yes, I counted. Okay, because I'm a fan. And Nardole was talking to the vault, basically telling him that, maybe he's got a companion and maybe he's taking off more. So we don't know if there's a threat behind there or if he's protecting something. Right. We still don't know. It kind of feels threatish, but they didn't come out and say. But it was knocking on the door, and I'm like, oh, well, duh. It's the master. It's the master behind the vault. And which master? I don't know.
Both, because he also referenced somebody like, how did you know? He referenced that whoever's in the vault is getting information somehow, or something. I don't know. So it seems like maybe he's worried that maybe there's multiple people in there, or somebody's.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. He definitely was worried. And I really enjoy the fact that even when they were doing the Missy hints in season 8, they only did them like every couple episodes. So it feels like they're not dicking around this series. I know some people might think they are, but they're definitely not. These episodes feel like things are moving forward. I enjoyed the hell out of this episode, John. I can't wait for next week. Next week looks really good, by the way. I love, I love Bill's look, her 80s look in it. Yes. And it looks, I don't know. It just looks, it definitely feels like they've just gone back to what fucking works. I mean, you don't have to reinvent this shit, and more people involved, more characters, and just fun. I know we say it, but I'm enjoying the hell out of this. I'm having a good time.
Speaking of fun, I wanted to let all of you Doctor Who fans out there know that right now on Omaze, OMAZE, so omaze.com/who, is for charity. You can enter, you can basically donate to enter to get raffle tickets. And the raffle ticket, if you win, you would get flown out to London, put up in a 5-star hotel, and then you would have breakfast with Peter Capaldi, Matt Smith, David Tennant, Paul McGann, Sylvester McCoy, Colin Baker, and Peter Davison. So you would meet with 6 doctors for breakfast in London. I just gave $100 to get 1,000 raffle tickets. So I'm just letting you all know that it's out there. It sounds like a pretty cool thing. And even if you don't get chosen, you're giving money to help childhood poverty. So take a look at that. omaze.com/who.
I think it's related to Red Nose Day and Comic Relief a little bit there. I think that's got something to do with it. Something like we gave up on in the US, but has been going strong over there. Right. You know what I love about England is like they still have music festivals. They still do comic relief and big charity shows on TV. Like TV watching is still a huge thing, even though like we're cutting the cord over here. It's still like a community thing. People prime time in England is Saturday night, which is like not even thought of as prime time here. Prime time here is what?
Sunday, Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at times it was Thursday night was the big night too.
So in addition to that, I wanted to announce, here is the comment by God.
Who was our previous winner?
Yeah, so he won on this comment. The creepy Cybermen you're thinking of are the Mondasian Cybermen. He said, Gary, you're absolutely right about the ending of this episode. It felt like the writers were in a rush to set things up for the next episode. It could have been more satisfyingly done, but the episode wasn't horrible. He said season 10 has been pretty good. He's going to miss Bill as well. And he wanted to know if it had been confirmed that she was only getting this one season. And it has, but they can always go back on that sort of thing. So
it is timey-wimey. And he also expressed interest in wanting to participate. And I will pass on that we are trying to get the live chat going. It's going to take a couple more weeks, and I let him know that. But it will be going. We will be doing phone calls, all kinds of fun stuff as the season progresses. You're as this season goes on, our cameras are going to get a little bit better. Yeah, you're gonna like it. You're gonna like
it. We'll start putting out invites at facebook.com/nerdrotic podcast. So you'll see events set up ahead of time, so you can join us live for these podcast tapings right after each Doctor Who episode. For the audio version, you can always follow us on iTunes. You can look for the Nerdrotic podcast. Just follow that feed, and it'll get dumped in there with everything else. You can follow me on Twitter at Jon Reed 16. Gary's at Nerdrotics. That's our official feed. And then obviously, if you're watching this right now live, it's at youtube.com. This is the Nerdrotic channel. And you can also watch it in the archives afterwards. And most importantly, head over to nerdrotic.com. There you can find all of the content that we put out. Right now we're in the middle of things, but big news, we're going to be starting a American Gods podcast tomorrow night after the series premiere. I am super effing excited because I'm a Neil Gaiman fan, but not on the, I like Sandman. I like Neil Gaiman, but I've never loved him until I read American Gods. That was the book that really, really spoke to me. So I'm really excited for this TV show. Obviously, after that, I read some more of his stuff, like Nancy Boys. I thought was really good too. But this was the thing that got me into that whole genre. So I'm very, very, very excited for this show tomorrow.
Oh yeah, I've only read 2 books by him. Good Omens with Terry Pratchett and American Gods. Enjoyed them both immensely. Loved his work in Marvel. It's weird is Sandman's I enjoyed it too. It's not my favorite thing by him, but I read his first book, which was a guide to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and it's basically a behind the scenes of Douglas Adams, and he's a big Douglas Adams fanboy, so he wrote kind of a bio on the radio series, which I still have the first printing in my bookshelf over there. And I remember tripping out reading the Sandman. I'm like, wait a minute, this is by the guy who wrote my Douglas Adams book. No way, back in the day. Awesome. And I have met his wife, Amanda Palmer, and she is cool and very talented. And I saw her in concert, so she's really good. John, Melissa my wife has a Twitter. It's at Agent Bossy Boots. Our other host, Dennis Pathalkis, has a Twitter. It's at DeForce. Everything will be in, below in the video here, and we will have links. I will also be linking right here our 2 previous videos for Doctor Who. And that's it. Thank you for watching. We will see you next week, and may the small folks sing songs of your greatness.
Awesome, 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 awesome. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Doctor Who fans. We love you.